What is going on, YouTube people? New York Cards and Comics here. It is the don't get cute time of year. That's right. We are deep into the NFL playoffs. AFC NFC championship game this weekend with the Super Bowl following up. And if you have cards of the quarterbacks currently still alive, now is not necessarily the time to get cute with this stuff. And if you are going to get cute, you need to act quickly if your plan is to sell these guys. Now, if your plan's, you don't care, you're a fan of the team, you love this particular player, you're ride or die for the next 40 years, this is not the conversation for you. If you put money into these players in the anticipation of selling for a profit deep into the playoffs, this is the conversation for you. So what do we do if you have a ton of money, or just any money, in air quote, I'm going to say the bad word here, invested into these cards / players? So where are we at? Who is actually left sitting out there days before the championship games? We have Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. These are their card prices over the last 60 days. Now, let's kind of run through these really quick. Goff Silver Prism is only up about 3%. I will say most other Goff stuff is up quite a bit. So don't be too skewed by just seeing that 3%. If you look at pretty much any of his other cards, they are through the roof. The Silver Prism, for whatever reason, just does not move that much. Brock Purdy up 20%. Lamar Jackson, we are using the Optic Hollow in lieu of the Silver Prism because 2018 Silver Prisms are ghosts. That is up 86%. And Patrick Mahomes up about 20% from 3K to about 3.5K. Now, let's assume whatever horse you were backing, you think they're going to win the Super Bowl. So you are going to ride it out because obviously, if you don't think your player is going to win this weekend, you should be selling right now. At this point in time, you are basically literally sports gambling on whether or not you think this player is going to advance or not. That being said, if you are risk averse, this next couple days is probably your time to exit out of these players. Now, someone could buy a quarterback from you. They could win the Super Bowl 2 weeks later, and maybe they'll be able to make a couple tendies off of it, and you'll hate yourself because you left $50 on the table, $100 on the table, $200 on the table by selling a week too soon. Remember, folks, you are much better off to sell before than after. Sell into the hype, not after the hype, as much as you possibly can. The key thing to remember is only one person gets to sell at the top. There's only one person that typically gets to make that peak sale. So you could be the little dot at the top of the little chart and graph. Only one person gets to do that typically. So just kind of keep that in mind. Timing the market is cool and all, but getting too cute and trying to time it exact, I think, is where a lot of people make mistakes. Let's go back in time a little bit. We are going to take a look at the last two Super Bowls and kind of how the market reacted. I didn't want to go back much further than that because then you get into peak COVID times like 2021. And that data is so skewed because everything was going crazy January, February of 2021 that I don't know that we could put a lot of stock into those numbers. So I left that one out. So let's dig into the 2021-2022 NFL season. Matthew Stafford defeats Joe Burrow in early 2022. These graphs represent December 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022, so we can kind of see the before and the after. The light blue line is Joe Burrow, who lost in that Super Bowl, and the dark blue line is Matthew Stafford, who won that Super Bowl. For the purposes of this, I use Stafford's Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10, only pop 77, but that year there's just not a lot of great options that kind of capture everything. Obviously, the Burrow Silver is the Burrow Silver. So in the Burrow Silver, we see the big run up. There was one big, huge outlier sale here previous. That took place on February 3rd. That was immediately following the AFC Championship game. The AFC Championship game that year was on January 30th. So here's 1 on 2-1. So we have a 5K sale there, a 6.83 3K sale there. And then it goes right back down again pretty quickly. And remember, this is before the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was actually played on February 13th that year, right here. So you can see on the 13th, these two graphs go the opposite directions. Burrow immediately drops. Stafford immediately goes up. Now, what I want you to pay attention to here, and this is why you have to act cute or act quickly. Don't get cute. If you were going to run out the string and see if one of whoever it is that you got cards of wins the Super Bowl, when you go to sell that night or the next day, that's where people get too cute. They want to try to price enforce on the high side and set the new record high. But look at how quickly Stafford goes right back down again. So he was at just over $1,000 for his PSA 10. Actually, was a little bit higher than that leading up to the game. We can see here on 1/6, it was 1.5K, 1.2K, and then the day of the game, I'm assuming in the morning, I don't know the exact time of the sale, 1K. They win on the 14th. It spikes up to 1.85. The next sale, 1.6, then 1.2, and then down to $840, less than what it was selling for. This is not even basically a month later. It is back down again. Now, this card is a little bit more rare. There's less population on it, so you don't get to see the transactions, but that thing comes right back down again. So you have this little narrow window of when you want to exit the card. So if you basically what I'm saying is if you want to get out of it and you get a strong offer and it's pretty close, don't quibble over a few percentage points. Just let it go. Be Elsa, just let that thing go. Let's look at another year. Let's look at last year. Jalen Hurts versus one Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Now, Mahomes is a little bit different just because he has so much baked into his stuff and a massive collector base. His stuff did not perform exactly the same, but it also didn't go to the moon. So Hurts obviously tanked very quickly. This gives you a good example of the hyped guy losing the game and then it going not necessarily a zero, but you get my joke there. That went down 45% in that time frame from December 1st to April 30th. Once again, that last year, the Super Bowl was played on December 12th. We see that right here. Here's 211. Hurts silver was going for about $1K the day before the game. Earlier in the month, it was going for about $1,000, pretty much dead on, $900 to $1,000. Here's the day of the game. He loses, $850, $730, and then it kind of floated around there and then went even lower as we moved throughout the early parts of spring and then ended up down in what it ended up in about the $700 range. So keep that in mind. That's the risk you take of saying if you had a bunch of Hurts and you're like, he's going to win, that's the risk that you take. So on the flip side, one Mr. Mahomes. So that game happened on the 12th. So on the 12th, it was going for 4.5K. Leading up to it, it was for around 4.2, 4.25, 3.9, 4.2. So very, very high threes, very, very low fours. He wins. Congratulations. To the moon, everybody. Jumps up to 5K the day of the game. So that's probably sales that night. There's one sale. What do we see on the next one? Down to 4.75. Down to 4.3 on the 18th. And then right back down on the 19th, just days after winning the Super Bowl, it is back down to slightly less than what it was selling for prior to the Super Bowl. Now, there's one little thing here that pops back up again and then goes right back down again. Also remember around this time, one thing to keep in mind, there was a lot, and I don't know if that's what happened with every single one of these. There's a lot of shill bidding going on with Mahomes silver PSA 10s. It was one of the most shilled cards back in the day. But we see that spike back up, right back down again. Back up, right back down again. Up, right back down again. And then about a month or two later, we can see it levels out in 3.6, 3.6, 3.8. What do we got there? 3.9. Just under that 4K mark, right? What it was selling for leading up to the games. And this is him winning the Super Bowl, and this is one Patrick Mahomes. Keep all that in mind. The reason why a lot of this typically happens is why you don't see these exponential price spikes on these players post winning a championship. We've seen this year after year in the NBA. Same with the World Series. There are some outliers, but generally speaking, on a macro level, what happens is everyone is doing what you are doing. They're all holding their cards for the thing to happen. The thing happens. Everyone throws their stuff on eBay. All of a sudden, the amount of sellers outweigh the number of buyers. And the prices drop. And they drop quickly because everyone's like, oh, now Mahomes, like I said, a little bit of an asterisk there. Because it's Mahomes, a lot of people want to hold him until the cows come home. But generally speaking, even Mahomes won the Super Bowl and the card barely moved. And in fact, basically flattened out. If we actually go, I'm curious if I go 365 days, that takes us to 123. So right before the Super Bowl, card is still flat, down 3% since last year's Super Bowl. That puts it right before it. Let's flip back over to this, the current players. So, Mahomes wins. I don't know that I expect a major bump up in prices. Let's say Patrick Mahomes goes on and wins. Maybe it gets back up to 4K, 4.5. Do we really think it's going to hold there? I don't know. I don't think that it will. Lamar Jackson. Maybe as a first-time Super Bowl winner, it would spike back up. Maybe the optic hollow gets up over $1,000, maybe $1,500. Do we really think it's going to hold there? Brock Purdy on the loaded 49ers team spikes up, maybe. Not maybe, it'll spike up, but if they win this weekend and then leading into the Super Bowl, it'll probably spike a little bit. But do we think it holds? Goff? Do we think the Goffer holds? Maybe Goff holds a little bit. Lions first Super Bowl, people go crazy for it. I don't know. I just don't see any of these guys bucking the trends. I really don't. Even Tom Brady. I remember when Tom Brady won the Super Bowl, his stuff went down after the Super Bowl for a hot minute. Not by much. He was kind of the Mahomesian effect of basically winning the Super Bowl allowed him to maintain his prices. That was the victory. It was holding his prices after he won with the Bucks. But that was also peak COVID, like I said. It was peak of the craziness of the sports card world. So if you have these guys and you are looking to potentially exit off of them and you're going to run the risk of holding through the Super Bowl, my word of advice to you is, and I don't own any of these cards. I own no cards of any of these players. At least nothing of any significance. Definitely no rookie stuff. I guess the only thing I have even related to this is a 2017 Optic Mega Box for Mahomes rookie year. The thing that I would tell you is if you're looking to exit out of this stuff, don't get cute when you go to sell if you ride it out to the championship. Even if you want to be a little bit risk averse and you're going to say, I'm going to run it through the championship games, through this weekend. Maybe you have some Goff stuff and you have some Lamar Jackson stuff. And you think they're going to win this week. So you're going to run it through, but you're going to exit before the Super Bowl because you don't want to get too cute. Same thing with tonight or with Sunday night. Now you have a little bit more wiggle room there because there'll be that you have that 2-week gap between the championships as the game. So it's not as critical. You have a little bit more time. You can get a little cute then. But immediately following the Super Bowl, if you want to exit from the card, do not get cute. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. Curious for your thoughts and comments down below as always. Don't forget, if you really love the card, they let you buy them back. Peace.